and welcome to yet another episode of your favorite D&D podcast that's not about playing D&D, it's just about talking about D&D. It's
Until today.
Dragons. Well,
Kinda.
I'll shake it up. I'm Lisa.
I'm Varun.
And today we're talking about some new, interesting, fun stuff. It's Tasha's Cauldron of beautiful, delicious soup. But before that, what's up with you, Varun? I haven't actually spoken to you since I think the last time we recorded. So
In a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we record before the last session of your game? Because the last thing I remember you running for me was the session where we have to climb a tower and we meet a crazy old man, and then something spooky is off on the horizon, and I don't remember when that was.
Oh yeah, that's because I didn't specify.
No, I mean in real life, I don't remember when that was.
Oh yeah, no. I think we recorded before that.
Okay.
I think that happened after. So okay, so I have spoken to you.
Yes.
Since.
And you've been in my game, right? The one we have on Sundays.
Jesus, what is time anymore? I don't know. Listen, the past couple weeks.
A lot, but other stuff is going on.
Yeah, for posterity. Let's date ourselves a little bit. Like, we're in
November 20th.
2020, yes. We're still very much entrenched in the plague, and then there was also that whole election, and that was fun and stressful.
Which is
and my brain
still going on.
Survived it.
It's still going on, no matter how hard folks try to keep it going.
I mean,
yeah. So yes, other things have been going on that have had our attention to the point where we both forgot that we were in games with each other.
Yeah. At least I feel less bad knowing that, like, you also didn't remember.
I remembered playing, and I was fairly sure that was after we recorded, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Whatever.
Let's see. Other stuff going on. The plague is still here, so I haven't been traveling anywhere. I travel for work a lot, and I usually have stories of the places that I go, but not this year. Yeah, the last big story I have is going to Hong Kong, and then last big thing I went to was in Georgia. But
you still managed to go to Hong Kong?
Yeah, that was last year.
Okay, you're talking about last year. That was like your last
not this year.
Big trip. But like, you've gone to like other states.
Oh yeah, I've been all around the U.S.
Okay.
Been to Stevens Point, Wisconsin.
No, I just mean like within the last year.
I mean the first quarter of the year. And then April happened, and then travel went away.
Yeah.
And I'm so angry, disappointed, like all the words, because I'm from the Caribbean, and then I have a bunch of Caribbean clients that I'm working with, and all of them would have gladly have me fly over to where they are.
You could have gotten just a comped trip home.
I could have been just jet setting around the Caribbean for like the last few months. And then just like, nope, that's not going to happen. That's probably not going to happen next year either, depending on like how vaccines or whatever go. So that's just a disappointing realization I just came to a few days ago. But let's see, other stuff. If anyone follows me on Instagram, which I guess we might have in the description, I'm currently playing through all the Super Robot Wars games, the OG timeline. So I've gotten to second OG, which is technically like the 7th game. The numbering system in that line of games is similar to Kingdom Hearts, where Kingdom Hearts 3 is really Kingdom Hearts 10.
It's nothing makes sense.
Japanese strategy RPGs for you. It doesn't make any damn sense.
Numbers only mean what you want them to mean.
Yeah. But I am having fun with that, playing my Super Robot Wars, it's something to do while I'm at home. But also, I did a podcast with the guys from Flynn's Arcade, up the road from me. They do a Gundam cast, where they one of the owners and one of the main model builders from their model building night will come in and talk about, hey, what's new with, Gundam models and stuff. So I did an episode with them talking about my favorite line of models and the mangas that came with it. I actually own all of the manga that ever came out in English for them, so that's like not...
Bird.
Yeah, it's about 9 books, and it's about a tiny fraction of what actually came out in Japan that we never got. Did that, and then we're actually starting the D&D groups, social distance, and all of that stuff. But still in person around a rather large table in their arcade on their Wednesday, because Wednesdays are slowest days. So they're like, hey, we need something to fill that time. Let's do some D&D. All right, cool. So yeah, that's where I got actually a little exposure to the thing we're going to be talking about today, Tasha's and the armor artificer.
Yeah,
Other than that, I was gonna say, other than that, I think that's it for me. Like stuff I've been doing.
Yeah, I haven't been doing much. I don't know if by the last recording I started like. I'm expanding my hobbies. I got into reading tarot. I don't know. I was like, this seems like something fun and cool. And then
reading and collecting tarot.
Listen, I promised myself I would only buy those 2 first decks that I got.
And now you have a third.
And then I got a third one because it's a Guillermo del Toro deck. It's a Tarot del Toro, and how could I not? How was I supposed to not? So anyway, one of them is literally just a picture of Striker Eureka fighting Knifehead.
And then the devil is Hellboy, right?
Yeah, the devil's Hellboy. I had no choice. I was forced.
The Lovers is Shape of Water, right?
Yeah. My hand was forced. I could not do it. I don't know. Other than that, I've just been working and thinking about D&D, but not playing D&D. I've even fallen behind by a month on Critical Role, which I haven't been that far behind on that in a long time. So
it happens. You're
yeah.
busy. It's coming to the end of the year. I'm looking to end a lot of the campaigns that I've been running. So the one that you're in on Sunday, like either the next session or session after, like we're coming to the end of that one. And then the other 2 that I'm running for other groups of friends that you are vaguely familiar with, they're definitely going to come to an end within their next sessions. The one you're doing the one where you're Dot and you have a son and all that stuff, that one's got legs for another year at least. But
legs for days.
Legs for days. So we'll see how that one's gonna go. But that one's got a lot to go still.
Listen, the thing about that campaign is that even once it's done, I will probably end up writing fan fiction about it. I don't know. I'm very attached.
There's a couple places where I can envision each of your characters ending up. Some of them are together, some of them are not together, and I want to see how that works out. Fun,
intrigue, drama.
Yes.
Real Housewives of Arad.
Yeah. Of the Vampire City.
Oh yeah. Oh god, I forgot that was. Oh god.
Yeah.
Vampires.
Himpat, the probably Vampire City. But
is that where we're going next?
Yes, I believe that's the town you're going next.
Does
but
each one of the towns have their own Real Housewives? It's the Real Housewives of Himpat.
Sure, why not? They all have their own bougie, uppity white folk.
Yeah, they're a vital part of the ecosystem.
But you guys gotta deal with some Yetis or something first. I think that's where we left off last time. You saw a kid Yeti,
yeah.
and then there was a mama Yeti, and then
Oh, is that what that? Okay, cool. All right.
But
that's what that was.
Yeah. I probably told you a little too much. You're probably supposed to figure that out during the game, but hey, here we are.
Because my dumb brain would have assumed they're mates, and Yetis are just they're like sharks where the females are bigger. I don't know.
We're gonna figure that out on the next thing. Probably not next week because it's Thanksgiving.
I'm also the person who, like, it took me several sessions to realize that the lady I killed was a succubus.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, I was...
It took me a long time to realize that that's what that was. I was like, a demon? I don't know.
I was a little vague on that, and then I think you guys
you
either...
could have used your words.
Well, no, I think either you guys didn't ask about what she was, or you tried to figure it out, and you, like, majorly flubbed the rolls.
I did ask!
So you must... I think I remember you majorly, like, flubbed the rolls, and then, like... You just weren't sure what she was for, a while.
Because, like,
so
your descriptions, if I recall, they were just, like... It would have been stuff that, like, to Dot, it was just like, okay, that's a Tuesday. Like, what? I don't understand.
No, I know. If you had rolled high enough, and this was a while ago, if you'd rolled high enough, I'd say, yeah, you would know she's a succubus, because you're a tiefling, and your background, you would know this. But I'm pretty sure it was like a natural one situation. It was just like low enough that Dot had never encountered this. But
yeah, that's wild.
That's the only reason I wouldn't have told you that.
I hate the dice.
Yeah. Oh, and I just remembered stuff I'm doing. I'm also for those gamers. I'm also replaying Rayman Legends. I love that game so much. It's one of the best platformers ever created, and no one ever talks about it. But it's great. Even though I hate Ubisoft, like I got it like on sale or something. So money didn't really go to them.
Fair enough. Okay. I think with all that said, I think it's time that we get into it, because this is... there's either nothing for us to talk about here, or there's a lot for us to talk about here.
I think there's a lot.
There's only one way for us to find out. You've mentioned you've already had some experience, like, playing around with the stuff in Tasha's Cauldron. I'm kind of going into this blind. I was supposed to do my homework, but I guess we're getting a live
pulling the
reaction.
veil back.
Oh yeah, no, there are no lies here. We're friends here. Me, you, the audience.
Mm-hmm.
We're here. I want to be honest. I was supposed to do my homework. I was having some technical difficulties, so we're just gonna have a live reaction. But just based on like the cursory glance I've given to this, there's some things that I already immediately have opinions on. I have some thoughts, but I want to hear from you.
Sure.
Where do you want to?
Let's just start with the book itself. So Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, released, I believe, this month of November 2020. I have it on D&D Beyond, but it's available everywhere. The book itself is, like, I've been listening to multiple folks try to dissect it and, different takes on it. And, obviously we're going to have our own thing to say today because we're going to hone in on some specific things. I know we are. But the book itself, for the uninitiated, is probably the second or third, most important, best book, source book, in D&D 5e so far, because it collects a lot of the races and subclass stuff from all the other books. So from like the Ravnica books, the Eberron book,
the like adventure
Theros. Yeah, combines all of that, puts it all in one place, which has its pluses and minuses, but it concentrates all the information in one place. So if you haven't been collecting all the books, great. You buy this one and Xanathar's Guide to Everything for like all of the magic and spells that adds to the game, and Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide. You're pretty much covered for everything. So in that vein, like if you're coming in fresh, it's a really good buy. For folks who've been following things so far, all the other books, less so, just because, hey, I've seen a lot of this information before, but it also includes a bunch of other subclasses that were Unearthed Arcana that have now become official.
Yeah, that's I think like the major thing is it taking stuff that people were already playing with anyway and making it official.
For a while now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Some of it got completely reworked, like some of the barbarian classes, I know, because I like playing barbarians. some of them got like there was the, I forget which path, but one of them got like completely reworked from the ground up versus
like something like Circle of Spores.
Circle of
That
Spores.
is literally word for word what the UA was.
The Armor Artificer, exactly the same, and then some just got rebranded. I guess they didn't like the names. The UA domain called Unity domain just got remade into the Peace domain, but it's all mechanically exactly the same.
Yeah, I liked it being called the Unity domain because I liked the idea of just like,
I like the name better.
These are the clerics that this is who you're gonna go to when you want to get married. Like I like that idea.
Yeah.
But I guess the Peace domain is fine too, because I guess that implies like not just unity through like on the individual level, but also on like in the level of like nations and such.
No, I take your point. They could have been two different things, like Unity focusing on bonding of like maybe two individuals, or versus.
It could have been two different things, but then people would have called it out for being two different things that are really the same thing with different names.
Well, I mean, Peace Domain, you'd rework it to be something else, where it'd be more kind of group focused, versus the Unity Domain, at least as we read it before, being kind of like the platinum bonding rings. We keep bringing this up, this class specifically, because one of our friends is going to probably pursue that domain with her character coming up. So we're all kind of versed in it. We're all reading about it. But yeah, like the idea of Unity being like two individuals and having strong bonds and strong bonuses for those two, but not really boosting or doing anything with anybody else in the party, versus Peace being kind of general and maybe helping everybody. I think that's the idea they could have rolled with, but whatever. I'm not writing the book. But that's just up the top. So the book itself, technically a lot of retread, a lot of filler of information that was already there. The reason for that, I'm 99% sure, is for Adventure League players, because Adventure League has the rule that says you can only use, certain sources, certain scores, all of that. And
certain number of sources.
And for sources, you can only use the player's handbook and one other source book. And it excluded a bunch of other ones too. But Tasha's, I believe, now falls under that umbrella. So now you can have all the stuff in your PHB, but also everything in Tasha's, which includes Theros, Ravnica, Eberron, all these different settings all in one spot. So it's probably to really expand that AL play that they kind of chock full, put this thing with everything that was re-released before. So we'll go through. There's some general things that I think we're gonna like and dislike, and we'll get into those, and then there's some specific stuff on classes that we'll definitely dig into. So up top, the thing that I am of two minds on is Session 0 being in Tasha's. So, and this is probably a take that most dungeon masters are gonna have. It's good that it's there, and it's good that it outlines what Session 0 is finally, like, in writing within an official Wizards book, but also it's way too late. This should have been in the Dungeon Master's Handbook, page 1. Like, you're setting up your game, have that Session 0, set expectations, all of that. That idea's been out there for so long, before 5e ever came out, and they could have included it, and now they've waited many, many years, like at least 5 years, to put that in a book. So, you have any opinion on just Session 0 being, like, quote-unquote official now, Lisa?
Wait, sorry.
Do you have any opinion on Session 0 being in this book now?
I mean, I guess like there's it's such a thing where it's like everybody. I mean, it should be something that's known already, or something that has already been talked about so much. I really don't disagree with you. I can't disagree with you on the idea that like it's something that should have already been.
Like, reprint the Dungeon Master's Guide, like, make a second edition and put that Session 0 stuff in there.
Yeah, but can you imagine Dungeon Master Guide for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, 2nd edition? Did you think about that?
Nope, I did. Nope. You just like said it out loud, and I'm like, yep, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I guess that's why they wouldn't do it.
Version, they could call it version 2
5th
or
edition, version 2. Okay, and then
whatever.
You're starting to get into that Kingdom Hearts nomenclature where it's like it's just numbers upon numbers, and then the numbers aren't meaning anything.
Or just just sneak it in there. And, just say, like, okay, we'll add this in moving forward, so anyone getting the new Dungeon Master's Guide will get this information as well.
Well...
Because that's where it's going to be the most useful, especially for new players who are just coming in.
Okay, consider, realistically, very few people actually buy the Dungeon Master's Guide.
You'd be surprised.
No, of course, people love to collect things, but... I mean, as far as, like, I've seen, people either borrow it from somebody else or, find it on the internet somehow. Ooh, gee, I do not know.
Well, I'll speak from experience. Like, I just ran, or was part of and helped, coordinate a game a few days ago at the arcade, and... everyone brought in their own player's handbook. They had their own book for themselves. And then the DM himself brought in, his own actual physical books. So I was like, oh, okay, no one's going to share. They all have their own, stuff. All right, that stops me from having to share all my stuff with everybody else. So, yeah, I think a lot of folk, especially with the DMG and the player's handbook, those are the two that most players get because, like, that's the starting point. And then all the others are add-ons. And and looking at Xanathar's and this one, those two are like the most important add-ons.
Absolutely. Xanathar's and Tasha's, at least so far, provide some of the most interesting subclasses, at least in my opinion, of course. But of course, that doesn't, completely take away the validity of, the ones that are in the player's handbook and in the DM's guide.
Yeah.
But at least the ones that I've looked at that are honestly some of these are kind of broken. Some of the, not broken, but some of the things in here are, when you compare them to the ones in the player's handbook, are much more impressive. And
the originals were kind of tropey, kind of falling into the standard fantasy roles, whereas
natural. That's just the natural order of things.
These new ones let you break a lot of those.
Absolutely, these are definitely, generally speaking, much more creative, at least at first glance.
But I think they both have their place, because beginning players coming in hey, maybe I shouldn't play an Astral Form monk because now I have a stand from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to manage in combat versus punch a bunch of times.
Right. You have to. It's the thing that you learn when you're learning creative writing, where everybody wants to go in and be the bad boy and want to break the rules, but you have to learn the rules to break them.
Yes.
And you have to walk the path that's been well trodden to know how to navigate the path less taken.
Yeah. No, and I see this from you, but from other newer players as well, where it's okay, I'm starting D&D, I'm starting my, first character or whatever.
My first character was a homebrew race and a homebrew class. What do you mean?
Yeah, I want to make my own custom character, my own custom race, my own, class that does these own special things. I'm like, this is your first character. Why would you ever want to do that?
Yeah, I wanted to play a druid off top. No, girl.
You want to play a custom druid, a custom race, custom class druid.
Absolutely not. That was a mess. She was my second character, though.
Okay, yeah. But I've seen other folks, wanting to come in and they're like, hey, human, elf. Hey, can I be an angel?
Sort of.
Yeah. Can I be like a demon?
Well,
And
sort of.
and all of that is falling into a lot of people's like habits of like, you want to be the most badass or you want to be the edgiest character, and none of that means anything, and all of that comes off kind of cringy if you don't have.
Cringe is dead. Cringe is dead, Varun. How dare you? Cringe is dead.
If you don't have
But
the
I do understand
base,
what you mean.
Yeah.
You have to get a feel for what it is that you're doing at a table, because that instinct, I think it comes from like reading way too much like YA and like
You're the special snowflake.
Wanting to be like the main character.
Yeah.
And
different from everybody else.
Yeah, your first game, you really don't want to be the main character. Like it's really to try to break that main character-itis.
Yeah.
And then you can make those super interesting, unique characters using stuff like out of Xanathar's and Tasha's, while also balancing that sort of personality.
Yeah, because I think those simpler classes and the simpler races let you say, even though I'm a human ranger, human fighter, whatever it is, I can still be badass and I can still be cool and impart some character to this thing.
And it also allows you to explore the space of teamwork.
Yes.
Because I think teamwork is really the foundational base of not just Dungeons and Dragons, but tabletop gaming in general. And like the wanting to be the Mary
and just fun RP.
Really the antithesis of wanting to do the teamwork thing.
Yeah, like fun roleplay comes from collaborating with your friends. And if you're like super badass, I can do everything up the top, then like what's the point?
You're the edgy edgelord with like the secret mysterious symbol on the back.
Main characteritis, like it's gonna be interesting because now 5e is gotten to the point where it's I won't say scope creep. It is a pretty natural progression of the books, but now it's gotten to the point where you've got customization options akin to like Pathfinder 3.5. Not as crazy, but this book adds a lot of other subclasses. It lets you fudge with your race. It lets you have a whole bunch of new feats.
Even optional class features.
Yeah.
Base class features.
Optional class features, swappable class features. So there's potentially going to be like a higher learning curve now.
Absolutely. I would not want
character
to be
creation.
Someone coming into the game right now.
I would, but I would hope my DM would be like, let's keep it simple to start.
Yeah. Or at least I would hope my DM is somebody, or not even necessarily just my DM, but like I would hope to have somebody at that table who is familiar and well-versed with at least like a large percentage of what's going on to help guide through this sort of... Because I can't disagree with you that it's starting to get a bit bloated.
It's not as bad as some previous systems, but it's definitely
for sure.
way more. It's way more complicated.
Being an absolute brick, but
it's way more complicated now.
Yeah, there's just a lot to go through and a lot to think about when you're building a character.
Yeah. Although
it's also part of the fun.
It's part of the fun, and although they are putting in the book the option to switch things around, which we're gonna get to, and I know you have some opinions on that.
Can we get into that? Can I get into this?
Well, I was gonna
get into this.
Go ahead.
All right. So here's one thing where I'm like, okay, I'm looking through the table of contents on Tasha's Cauldron of Fun Soup, and changing your subclass. Okay. To be fair, can I just read? Can I just read this?
Go ahead.
Just read this?
We're definitely going to read a bunch of stuff straight from this book. Go ahead.
Each character class involves the choice of a subclass at first, second, or third level, depending on the class. A subclass represents an area of specialization and offers different class features as you level up. With your DM's approval, you can change your subclass when you would normally gain a new subclass feature. If you decide to make this change, choose another subclass that belongs to your class and replace all your old subclass features with the features of the new subclass that are for your new level and lower.
Respecking, essentially.
Okay. So at first glance, that sounds absolutely terrible and abhorrent to me. As someone who is...
How do you really feel?
I hate it. As someone who is just very, like... I just care about narrative. That makes no sense to me. But, to be fair, it does have the two subheadings, training time and sudden change. So... It does take into consideration that your DM might... So, continuing to read from this, your DM might require you to spend time devoted to the transition as you study the ways of the new specialization. Okay, that's fine. The DM might require an expenditure of money to pay for training, magical reagents, and other goods needed for the transition. Cool. All right, I can agree to that. And then under sudden change, sometimes a character undergoes a dramatic transformation in their beliefs and abilities. When a character experiences a profound self-realization or faces an entity or a place of being overwhelming power, beauty, or terror, the DM might allow an immediate subclass change. So, yeah, we've had this in our game where our cleric...
We've had this exact thing.
She changed her, the god that...
The god that she worships and by that, her domain.
Yes. That's fine. If it makes narrative sense, that's fine. What I don't want, or what I don't like, the idea that I don't like, is someone simply changing their subclass just because they wanna.
Well,
okay, so
okay,
let's say
keep going.
You decide, I hate this subclass, I don't want to be the subclass anymore. I like the class, but I want to switch. I don't know. I don't want to be Pact with the Tome anymore. I want to be Blade
Pact of the Blade.
Yeah, I want to be a Pact of the Blade. Fuck books. I want a knife. I think that the important part here, and this is something that people have already done. This is again, Tasha's is retreading ground that people.
A lot of ideas that have already been out here.
Yeah, this is something that people already do. And something that people already implement is the idea that, like, okay, I want to change something about this character. I don't like playing this subclass anymore. I want to change to this other subclass. Let me work with the DM to figure out a way that this makes narrative sense. Or, if this is a game where narrative doesn't matter and we're just hacking and slashing at the monster of the week, just change it. Okay, fine. You know what? I can concede to that. But it's just the idea of just doing it.
Well, like you say,
and then just backtracking and just it just doesn't make sense to me.
well, one, you and I know you know this. It's a game, so there could be situations where things can change. But you said it yourself. You said the two major things are training time or sudden change. But the one I thought you would point out as the most important is with the DM's approval. Like, they're not saying, hey, players, at any point you can go ahead and just respec because you don't like your build. You know, you can get with the DM. And I think with, like, beginner players, I think it's fine to say, okay, you're level 3, you're level 4, you don't really like your subclass, you don't really like how it's playing, go ahead and change it, like we just started the game. But, you know, if you're level 10, but you at this point, you're like, whatever subclass I chose isn't really keeping up with the rest of the party, gameplay wise, or there's, like you say, something's happened in the story where there's this major change, then the book says go to your DM and say, hey, I want to make a change. Which,
right, of course, that feels like a given. We keep coming back to this over and over again, the idea of communication between players and the DM, because, like, otherwise it's not a game. Or it's not a tabletop role-playing game, at least. If there's no communication in, you know, making changes like that and making decisions like that.
But it's just codifying something that's already been there that, you know, if someone wanted to change a subclass in any of the games that I'm playing, I'd be like, I'm not opposed to it, but okay, what's the reason? What do you want to change to? And if it's like, I'm not having fun playing this subclass, like, all right, let's figure out a way to change you around. Or, hey, in, you know, our friend Caitlin's case, which is going to be our next episode where we talk to her about this and some of the other shows she's been on. She's going to be in, like, the Freddie Wong podcast. But you know, if something's happening in the game that's causing a major shift in my character, so I want to go ahead and, you know, change the subclass, change my domain, whatever it is. That's already been there. You know, she came to me and said, hey, you know, I think I should probably make a change because this is a pretty big change for my character. I'm like, yeah, okay. Let's find a way to make it work in the story.
Let me ask you this. How do you feel about DMs kind of imposing a subclass change on players? Because
I mean, give me an example.
That only just occurred to me. This has happened in both of the Critical Role campaigns.
Okay.
I hate to bring that man up again. But in campaign 1, he kind of imposes a subclass change, or not a subclass change, but he imposes a sort of a secondary class actually on one of the players, and then in this current campaign, I think they talked about it and they like came to an agreement about it, but in the first campaign it was imposed.
So what actually was it, like a story thing, or
it was a story thing. It was something that made sense for the story. It was their rogue. He basically made a deal with the Raven Queen to get his sister back when she died one time. And the Raven Queen was right, all right, bet, so I'm going to make you my, basically like...
Messenger? Herald?
Knight.
Okay.
Oh, what's the word? Whatever.
A herald of the Raven Queen?
Kind of. I don't have a specific word.
A do boy.
Yeah. Her little errand boy. And made basically a deal with the Raven Queen, and then he became a paladin. And then he had to, like, subclass... Not subclass, but he had to, like, be a paladin rogue, which is why he got to do all that cool shit. But it was kind of imposed on the player, based on, like, conversations and interviews that they talk about it later on.
Yeah.
They do, because they do that, like, after-show talk show, and then they did that, like, season... that campaign.
Yeah, was it something that Mercer discussed ahead of time with him? Was it like spur of the moment type of thing?
I don't think it was spur of the moment.
I don't think it would. I don't think it would be.
I think it was something that like they may have discussed. Liam may not have been into it. I mean, it had something kind of to do with like the fact that Liam was going through like a hard time, like IRL. And so I don't know. There was a weird like interpersonal thing happening there too, where Matt was trying to do him like a solid.
Okay.
Of like trying to give him like a narrative catharsis. But I just thought it was interesting, the idea of like, okay, there's 3 scenarios in this where a player just decides, I'm gonna change subclasses and does it. Or, you know, a player and a DM discuss it and a player says, I would like to change subclasses. The DM goes, okay, let's figure out how this is going to go down. Yes. Are we going to have you train up, or are we going to have this sudden traumatic experience that's going to change your character intrinsically? Or a DM deciding, I think you need something, so let me give this to you.
Okay, so those first 2 scenarios I'm fine with because it's all, you know, player communication. We're going back and forth and everybody agrees on, you know, what's going to happen. The third scenario of like the DM imposing something, so if it's unilateral, I'll categorically say no because the DM the DM shouldn't be making those sorts of decisions for the players. The only times I can see it are in cases of maybe like paladins or clerics, if it's something that's going to break their oath, because there's the Oathbreaker Paladin class exactly for that. But the DM should warn them before whatever they're going to do, to be like, hey, if you do X, this will, you know, directly countermand the oath that you have, and it will change you to like an oathbreaker, because that's a very specific thing for a paladin. Same thing for clerics. Like, it's against
that's
your
like
god.
One of the only places where I think that alignments actually come into play. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody cares if you're lawful good unless you're a cleric and you're suddenly like haphazardly cutting people's heads off. Yeah, maybe your god's not gonna like that too much, and you're not gonna be lawful good anymore, and you're gonna lose some abilities.
No, well, the example that you have where the character was a rogue, but then he becomes a paladin of the Raven Queen or whatever. I think that's an equivalent situation.
A champion. That was the word. Champion.
But yeah, becoming a warlock or a paladin or whatever it is with these otherworldly, beings, the same thing applies. Like, take the player aside, say, hey, if we're gonna go down this path and you want to save your sister, there's gonna come a cost, and it's big, and you don't have like the money or the items or whatever to pay for that. It's gonna come from your character, and it's gonna be something that I'm gonna have to we're gonna have to tie you in. So like, we're gonna have to make you part warlock, or we're gonna have to make you part paladin. Some of the other more martial classes, like if you're a barbarian, like I can maybe see it if you're like a barbarian, and then the DM, like if you pursue like fighting less as a barbarian and more with like armor and stuff, then say, maybe you can take on level of fighter or respect of fighter. But in any of those cases, the DM should definitely communicate with that player to say, like, I'm thinking your character would like change class. What do you think? Always ask them what they think. In the cases, if it's going to be a full reclass, definitely ask them what they think. But if it's going to be like imposing a warlock level because now you're tied to the Raven Queen, talk to them to say, like, beyond the story implications, this is the mechanical implications of what's going to happen if you do this in the story. But unilaterally doing it, being like, hey, now you're, this other subclass out of nowhere. Like, no. Like, because you think it would be good for the story? No, I'm not into that, because that's, like, it would shock the player, but that's one of the main things they should have control over, like, what am I?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if a DM does that, Tasha's or no, that's just kind of shit. That's a shit thing to do.
Okay, so maybe I've come down on, I don't completely hate the idea.
Yeah.
It's just, at first blush, it just, I don't know, it irked something deep inside me. But I think it's something that can absolutely be made to work. It maybe needs a bit more emphasis on it being something that has to be discussed and come to, like, an agreement has to be
maybe the first thing it lists is with the DM's approval.
Right.
Like, that right there says you have to talk to your DM at least before you make this decision. And I like that it doesn't go into too much detail to, like, say you have to do X, Y, and Z to change your class. It said, like, there could be in-game things to retrain your character, or it could be snap a finger and boom, you're changed. But the whole thing is with the DM's approval. Talk to the DM. And both of those things, the training time and the sudden change, both mention the DM as well. So yeah. I think it's fine.
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
The other thing I think that Tasha's ends up doing for D&D at least is
as a
with
whole.
The what is it? The
ability scores? Is that
ability scores.
Yeah.
The customizing your origin, changing a skill, ability scores. I think it tries to cheekily, sneakily address the recent conversations around, like, race essentialism in Dungeons and Dragons, where it's like, yes, you're an orc or you're a half orc, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're stupid. So you can, like, make some adjustments. I think that's it's a step in the right direction for Wizards of the Coast to, like, begin to sort of, like, adjust course.
Mm-hmm.
It I don't think it fully like addresses the problems that people have, but I think it begins to. It's a start.
I mean, it's so the mechanics wise with the floating kind of ability scores.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great thing from a customization standpoint to say, hey, I want to be a halfling, but I want to be a buff halfling, so I want to have a buff, a bonus to my strength, because I trained from childhood to become this great fighter, even though I was short of stature. Great, I think that's totally fine, but to the point of like race essentialism in D&D, like you say, it's a step in the right direction, but it's a harder thing to address because a lot of old school fantasy is based on the idea of good races and bad races.
Right.
Humans are generally good, elves are generally good, dwarves are generally good, orcs, no matter half or whole, are generally bad. Kobolds and whatnot, generally bad.
Right. And I mean, I guess those tropes are why it's fun when a DM chooses to subvert those. But I don't know. I think we're in a moment where I think people are of the opinion that like we shouldn't be so surprised when people subvert those expectations. We should actually question those expectations.
Sure.
Because none of these things were, created in a vacuum or conceptualized in a vacuum.
Of course not.
Everything is coded in such a way, just based on like history and context, and nothing is created in a vacuum. So it's
a
hard
lot of
to
these
avoid.
original races being thinly veiled racial stereotypes.
Thinly veiled. There's no veil. But yeah, I mean,
Dwarves really liking money.
goblin. Let's not bring. Let's not. I'm not gonna do it. I was about to bring the goblins from Harry Potter into those terms. I would like to have a relaxing conversation about Dungeons and Dragons. I would like to not get mad tonight.
Where that comes from is it's easy to tell a story that way,
Yeah, when you have these signifiers and symbols that people easily recognize because you don't have to explain them. It saves time. It's efficient. But I think we're also at a point, like,
definitely
socially, where I think we're prepared to have the conversations of, like, why is that the efficient way to explain a story? Why do you feel the need to be efficient? Why not, like, build a story, like, or build a world? Why be lazy?
Yeah, build a world where there's some nuance there. So, like,
build a world that is as nuanced as our real world. Because when you build these very, like, essentialist worlds, you just really show your hand that, like, that's how you view the real world, when the real world is not like that. And I think as much as people play these games and go into fantasy to escape the real world, I don't think the thing that people are wanting to escape is how, like, diverse the world is or how nuanced the world is.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what we're trying to escape.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid of nuance.
So, yeah, I think this may be just some lore thing that maybe they eventually expand upon, just, like, progress time a bit more to say, like, yes, you may end up fighting orcs, but it's not because orcs are evil. It's because these orcs are brigands, because, because
anybody can be evil.
Because anybody can be a brigand.
Right.
Like, I think, like, alignment on stat blocks for monsters is definitely useful, because there are some spells and items and whatnot that affect those. But, for humanoids that should be, like, playable races or sentient races, that aren't, like, comically evil, what's the squid head ones again? It's been a hot minute.
Oh, Clarota. Oh, no.
Mind
flayers.
Mind flayers, yes. Mind flayers are comically evil, where
they're mustache twirling,
where they're
little tentacle mustache twirling,
interdimensional things that literally suck out people's brains and do all these evil experiments because they can.
The Gith? Is it the Gith?
half of the Gith. One of the Gith are good, one of the Gith are bad.
Again. I mean, I guess when you're getting into like the interdimensional eldritch kind of creatures, fine, whatever.
Well, I think the whole thing with that one, because they're a whole cloth race, is like one is the okay, kumbaya, let's be friends with other races race, and one is the like quote unquote race, or just like offshoot of that race of just like, nah, we're the best, we're the supremacist race.
And then on the other hand of it are like the Durgar or the Dark Elves, where it's just like, I still don't quite understand why it is that these are just like whole cloth painted with the evil brush.
Yeah,
like, that makes
because they came up in different circumstances. They're by default evil, apparently.
Listen, you can grow up in a slum and still be a good person. So,
and you can grow up in wealth and still be a terrible person.
It's actually much more likely, but
yes,
you didn't do that for me.
As our current political situation points out. But yeah, no. So yes, there's definitely some things that I think D&D in general, like the main world, Faerun, whichever one, needs to do kind of a redo, or just like a progression to say, orcs aren't just all roving bands of bandits. What's the orc culture look like? What do all these other race cultures look like? And progress them a bit more to say like, like you said, get away in world from that race essentialism, so that DMs can't use that as an excuse to say like, you're an orc, so no one likes you regardless of what your stats are.
Absolutely. And like, listen, cut this out if I've talked about him too much, but I think this is something that Mercer does well with the books that he has published with Wizards, the Guide to Wildmount and the Tal'Dorei. This is something that I think Mercer and his team, because he does have a team, they don't talk about it, but he has a team. But it's something that they clearly have thought about in that world specifically, that like no one group of people is essentially good or essentially bad. It's a very nuanced world. So I think like if you're someone who's new and you don't know how to create a world, I think it's a great world to start playing in. Because it gives you that basis of, you're not playing in a world that's set up for these sort of like black and white, quote unquote, easy to understand
Tolkien
dynamics.
Essentially.
Yeah. It's a little bit more nuanced. It requires a little bit more of, out of you, which I think is more fun when something actually like,
I don't think it requires more if it's upfront saying, there's these shades of gray with these races and these different groups and whatnot, versus, hey, orcs have always been bad. I keep going back to orcs, but they're kind of the default bad guy
absolutely.
race.
I mean, the Uruk-hai in Tolkien, right?
Yeah,
they're just elves with dreads. I'm so tired. They're just elves with dreads. It's incredible. But yeah, it's the point being, the customizing your origin section of Tasha's starts to push the game in the direction that it really should start going in.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There are going to be people that argue that it's not enough, but you know what? A step at a time. You can only ask for so much from something that is so established. There's just so much that they would have to undo to adjust the things that that need to be adjusted, that like it's just, this is the easier way to do it, and I'm glad that they're even trying it all.
Step by step, like you say. First step, hopefully they don't stop there.
Yeah,
or
I'm
create
out for 6th edition.
or create an entire new campaign setting, which kind of rebalances things. But we've been on race essentialism for a minute now. I know you want to get the class stuff.
Well, I'm gonna like run real fast through a couple of the classes that immediately spark my brain. And actually, before we get to that, I want to talk about group patrons.
Go ahead.
At this at all? I don't know.
No, I haven't seen that yet.
I just think it's an interesting idea that let me just read through this.
Yeah, what is it?
Just read through this, all right? The following sections present several group patron options. The description of each patron provides an overview of the types of organizations the group patron represents, perks of membership, and quests the patron encourages adventurers to undertake.
Mm-hmm.
With the input of your DM, you can customize these patrons to reflect specific establishments in your campaign world or to serve as a launch pad tailored for organizations of your design. For example, the guild group patron could represent the Harpers or the Zentarum of the Forgotten Realms, the Clifftop Adventurers Guild in Emberon, or a homebrew league of caravan guards, or perhaps a criminal syndicate, military force, or other category of patron better fits the party's goals. Choose and customize the group patron that works best for your party and the types of adventures you want to explore. So it essentially, it's something that provides assistance and helps encourage your party on their adventure. It's just another tool. It's an interesting tool as a DM to have this like touch point where your party can keep going back to and saying, okay, we don't know what to do next. Let's go back to our patron and maybe they'll give us something to do, or it's somebody for which we're doing work for. It's kind of the same idea of like the guild that it's like it's the place you go to get work, to get an assignment, get a perk, get assistance.
Okay, it's just the idea of like a helpful NPC, so it's just like kind of formalizing that.
And I think it's funny, the example patrons are very it's a range, because it goes from like a sovereign or religious order to an ancient being.
No, I think that's a good idea. I actually had that in the first campaign that I ran. The party members were a part of a guild that had more established like mercenaries and stuff working for it. So if they ever got stuck or whatever, they can go to them for help. If advice on the thing that they need to do, or literally back up in a fight, they have like you say, a touch point to go back to. And it's really great when you're able to like throw a stick of dynamite in there and blow that up, and all of their characters they've grown attached to are like gone now, and they have to deal with things on their own. That's usually a later game sort of thing.
It gives you as a DM another wrench that you can throw. And then again, this is another thing that people have already been doing, but Tasha's just codifies it and puts it out there for newer DMs who maybe don't have someone to guide them to this, to show them that like this is an option.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. And if you want to implement that sort of thing in the game, in your own game, it gives you the kind of book way to do it, but it's pretty loosey-goosey. It's like, an NPC that the players may like, or introduce an NPC or an organization that wants to help them, and they'll usually jump at it to say like, oh yeah, you want to like be buds, or you want to help bankroll us, or whatever it is. Great. And that, it only helps you as the DM, because now you need to track fewer NPCs.
Yeah. I do think it's also interesting that they codify being your own patron and basically running your own like syndicate.
That's eventually what my players ended up doing. They started their own thing, so that's why I got rid of the old one. It could be
like a crime syndicate. It could be a bakery. I don't know. Or it doesn't have to be any. It basically just codifies like, this is an option. This is something that you can do. You can run a business as a downtime activity.
Yeah, and I think that's half of the idea with Tasha is like a lot of these good ideas that have been out there, finally putting them in writing. Session 0, giving a patron puzzles, which we're going to talk about in a second, which is where I'm going to go off a little bit. But let's do the class stuff, because we're not going to go into every single section because there's a lot, but I know there's a couple each one of us want to kind of hone in on for our own reasons.
I want to just touch on the idea of I'm sure it's a lukewarm take to say that the Ranger is the worst class. But I think the Fey Wanderer subclass is just particularly interesting to me as someone who loves Fey bullshit. I love it.
You do love your Fey bullshit. It's got some
interesting stuff. It's got some interesting stuff. I think the charisma boost is fun. I think the Feywild gift... I mean, this table is stupid. It's so fun.
What's on the table? I don't have it pulled up right now.
So here's the thing: is you possess a preternatural blessing from a Fey ally or a place of Fey power. Choose your blessing from the Feywild gifts table or determine it randomly. Mm-hmm. So it's 6 items on a table, so you can either roll a d6 or you can choose one of these. The gifts can be illusory butterflies flutter around you while you take a short or long rest. Fresh seasonal flowers sprout from your hair each dawn. You smell faintly of cinnamon, lavender, nutmeg, or another comforting herb or spice. Your shadow dances while no one is looking directly at it. Horns or antlers sprout from your head, which, if you're a tiefling, that's not going to do anything for you. But if you're human, that'll be fun. Or your skin and hair change color to match the season at each dawn, which basically you might get confused for an Eladrin if you're not one. But it ties you. I like the flavor of it.
Yeah, it is Fey bullshit indeed, but it definitely helps.
The Ranger continues to be, like, I'm sure someone can you can have fun playing any of these classes, of course. Duh, everybody does. And none of these classes are bad. The Ranger is just the worst of them.
Just the worst. It's not bad.
Doesn't mean it's bad. It's just the worst of them.
Yeah, it's lowest on the totem pole.
No, it's fine. Somebody's got to be down there. It's a thankless job, but somebody's got to do it. And the Ranger does it, and I think this archetype absolutely just adds some very fun flavor to an otherwise very bland class. And the Swarm Keeper is also very fun as far as just like bugs. It's bugs. All right, the Ranger is known for like having an animal companion. Why not bugs? And the my other main thing is I love me some druids, and I'm really happy to see Circle of Spores out of UA and officially in a book, so that I can actually just play out my mushroom fantasy. Circle of Stars is also just the wildest shit.
What does that one let you do?
All right, it's star themed.
I'd hope so.
It allows druids to draw on the power of starlight. These druids have tracked heavenly patterns since time immemorial, discovering hidden secrets amid the constellations. Let's see. They harness the power of the cosmos. So you automatically know guidance. You have guiding bolt just prepared. And you can cast guiding bolt without spending a spell slot, which is
nice.
Woof. You have a star map, and if you lose the map, you can perform a ceremony to create a replacement, kind of like the Pact of the Tome.
What does it lead to?
The Grimoire. So, the map.
Or is it literally like a map of the stars that you know, like constellations, and you can't get lost using it?
You've created a star chart as part of your heavenly studies. It is a tiny object and can serve as a spellcasting focus for your druid spells. So it's another bit of flavor. It's spellcasting focus. And you can determine its form by rolling on a table. And then... So... Here's the fun part. So at second level, when you choose the Circle of Stars subclass, because for druids you choose it at 2nd level.
Mm-hmm.
So the druid thing is wild shape. So with
Mm-hmm.
the Circle of Stars, you can choose a starry form.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You still turn into
rather than transforming into a beast. So you retain your game stats, your body becomes luminous, your joints glimmer like stars, and glowing lines. So you essentially become a constellation version of yourself.
Whoa.
This form sheds bright light in a 10-foot radius and dim light an additional 10 feet. The form lasts for 10 minutes. It ends early if you dismiss it.
Cool.
Whenever you assume the starry form, you choose which of the following constellations, and whichever constellation you choose, it'll give you different abilities, different benefits. So you have the Archer. So a constellation of an archer appears on you when activated as bonus action. On your subsequent turn, while it lasts, you can make a ranged spell attack, hurling a luminous arrow that targets one creature within 60 feet of you. You have the Chalice. Whenever you cast a spell using a spell slot that restores hit points to a creature, you or another creature within 30 feet of you can regain hit points equal to 1d8 plus your wisdom. Or the Dragon. A constellation of a wise dragon appears on you when you make an intelligence or wisdom check or a constitution saving throw. To maintain concentration on a spell, you can treat a roll of 9 or lower on the d20 as a 10. So if you do the dragon, it basically gives you the
reliable talent.
Yeah. And then there's 6th level. The 6th level feature is Cosmic Omen. Whenever you finish a long rest, you consult your star map for omens. When you do so, roll a die. You gain access to a special reaction based on whether you rolled an even or odd number on the die. So it's a wheel or woe. It's similar to, oh god, there's another thing that it's similar to. That's basically a different omen thing.
Is it the cleric one where they speak to their god or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a cleric one and there's a warlock one.
Yeah.
There's a 10th level feature that's Twinkling Constellations.
Bullshit.
So it basically it's an improvement. It's a improvement on the starry form.
Sure. Okay. So this star one is really constellation based versus beast form based. Which is, so do you get more constellations as you level up, or
no? It's just the 3 base ones, and then as you level up, they just
eventually they'll probably expand that one, because they did that with the beast totem for the barbarian too.
For sure.
You only had the 3 to begin with, but now you have 5.
And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was the added Eldritch Invocations for Warlock. So they added a bunch of new invocations for Pact of the Talisman, which I don't think is a new one for Tasha's. I think Pact of the Talisman was added in with Xanathar's. And then they've added some new Pact of the Tome stuff and some new Pact of the Chain. And then some general Warlock Pact stuff. So
more Eldritch BS.
Yeah. Eldritch Mind is just Warcaster. It's you have advantage on Constitution saving throws that you make to maintain concentration on a spell. That's just Warcaster. This is useless. This is garbage. Why have you given this to us?
Well,
meanwhile,
you can take that and save the feat, so you can take the ability score improvement instead.
Or take a different feat. Sure. But why waste... I don't know. I think that the Eldritch Invocations, they're much cooler Eldritch Invocations than there are feats. I would rather use a feat on Warcaster and use my Eldritch Invocation on something like Far Scribe, which is a Pact of the Tome feature that's a new one in here, where a new page appears in the Book of Shadows, and basically somebody can write their name in it, and you can just automatically cast the sending spell on a creature whose name is in the book.
Cool.
So, like,
much more useful.
My character Dot is a Pact of the Tome warlock. If I took Far Scribe, I could have my son write his name in my book, and I wouldn't have to have a stupid necklace that I can only use once.
You can talk to him whenever.
I can just talk to him whenever I want.
Well, Tasha's hadn't come out by that point, so he's out of the picture for now.
Right.
You'll have a chance. He'll come back eventually. He's at board. He's at fantasy boarding school right now.
He is at fantasy boarding school. The other one that I also think is absolutely buck wild is another one that is a Pact of the Tome, where if somebody writes their name in your book, when any creature whose name is on the page is reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, the creature magically drops to 1 hit point instead.
What? That is so good. Once per long rest, I assume, or
yeah.
Okay.
No creature can benefit from it until you finish a long rest once it's triggered.
Oh my god! So it gives everyone the orc thing, the orc resilience.
Basically.
Awesome! That is so good.
God, I want to take that so bad.
You all are gonna have some discussions about customization options. I assume because I have Tasha's in your campaign now. Probably when you next level up, except probably you're probably gonna dig into that shit right now and be like, yo, can I have this? But
no, I'll take it when we level up. I'll be fair.
Yeah. Okay. No. But yeah, you got a lot of cool new magics. And have you looked at the summoning spells for, I think it's warlocks, but most classes who can take them now. I think it's
new spells and stuff too.
And I think those new summoning spells kind of streamline the summoning process and make it less of a headache for the DM to help you run, to you as the player to run creatures that you've summoned. Because right now, like, if you summon lesser demons or whatever it is, you have to roll however many you're going to do. The DM has to have the stat block for all of those, put them on the field. And I think these new spells have all of that, or at least what's needed in the spell right there. So you as a player, boom, you have all your stuff, at the ready.
Mm-hmm. You're not talking about the sidekicks thing, are you?
No. Sidekicks are another thing which are cool, implemented in the Essentials kit, and essentially just let you have an NPC that you've grown attached to that you want to travel with the group. I'll use our friend Nikki as an example, where she has her half giraffe boyfriend, Giraffael, that she really wants to have come with the party because she is so in love with him. But he's, like a commoner, like a peasant, stat block wise. So at their level, certain things would look at him and kill him. So you can make Giraffael a fighter or a soldier or expert or spellcaster even sidekick, where he has actual stats, but he's not like a player stat block where you have to have all this stuff. He's just a slightly more complicated, like beast stat block, monster stat block, where there's certain things that you can do in the turn and the player controls them. So like, hey, Nikki, you can control Giraffael in the battle as well. I can make your son one of these too eventually.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but
so then I could actually find out what he is.
I'd have to do some tweaking, but yes. Because it comes with a bunch of pre-made ones. Because the sidekick classes are different from player classes, so I'd have to tweak things around a little bit because your son's a special boy. But yeah, the sidekick stuff is cool. The new spells are cool. The new class stuff, and then for my perspective, class wise, the two that jumped out at me that I really wanted to go into and play. The first one I actually have played. The Armor Artificer, because I love Iron Man. He's one of my favorite comic book characters, and this just lets you be Iron Man, where now you're an artificer, you're a spellcaster, but you also have proficiency with heavy armor that you can instantaneously transform into power armor, which one is more combat focused and one is more stealth focused. So you choose whichever one you want to be, and then boom. And combine that with winged boots, or the infusion to get the winged boots as the artificer, you're just Iron Man. You're in armor, you're flying around the place. If you got plate armor, like you got the helmet and all that, you're Iron Man. It's great. I rolled my character because it's an intelligence class, so I had to be a gnome. So I rolled the name. It came up with the amazing name of Ventra Horcus Porcus, which I love.
Horcus Porcus.
Yes, which I love.
That's really good, actually.
Yeah. So I love, and I played it. It's a really good one where I'm a more melee-focused character, but I can play a caster, but still also do melee stuff that does magic-y crap, too. It does thunder damage, it gives disadvantage to the opponents who, if they try to attack someone other than you, so, like, you draw the aggro, you're already the armored up one, so you're gonna have really high AC. It's a good class.
I guess you could say you get the best of both worlds.
Yes. And then the other one that jumped out, because I'm a fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, is the Monk, The Way of the Astral Self, where you basically get astral arms and eventually an entire astral body that you can project out to use in combat. So,
The astral projecting.
Just punching like crazy.
Punching and posing.
All the fashion poses. It's great. But yeah, those are the two that jumped out. I like
the only thing I know about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is that he would literally take pictures of like Vogue magazines.
Yes.
And like just draw characters over it.
Yeah, he would just take actual like couture fashion magazines, Araki, and then like, yo, my characters are making those poses now. I don't care if they're not humanly possible. He's doing it because they, they pose them up a specific way for the shoot. No, he's gonna do that naturally.
The only thing I know is that, and there's a character named Lisa that
yes.
my friend just refuses to not call me that.
The third thing, there's a lot of music references, and Terra references in part 3. But
yeah, isn't Speedwagon?
Yeah, there's a man named Robert E.O. Speedwagon. He's the best.
There's a David Bowie one too.
I don't know if it's David Bowie specifically, but he does less like straight artist names, but more band names and stuff. Although there is one stand called Notorious B.I.G.
That's honestly the perfect stand name, and I wish that was mine.
But yeah, so those are the two that jumped out to me of just like what I would want to play. Would look super fun. I'm gonna do more experimenting with that Artificer that I built, but it's really good. And then, yeah, the last thing I want to do, and then we could wrap it up, is the last thing that Tasha touches on is puzzles.
Puzzles.
And, staple of D&D, riddles, puzzles, that sort of thing, wrapped around magic, lets you do something other than smack stuff with a sword, think your way out of a problem. Great. I think, my perspective here, the puzzle section in this book is kind of trash. It seems very poorly written in some of these cases, and I think we can make the case right here. You go ahead and pull up your, and I told you before, go ahead and pull up your sheet for Dot, because I know you have her like either on your phone or right on the thing, right on the browser.
I never click out of that, please.
So I'm gonna read you the puzzle, whatever flavor goes with it, and then you have to, let's see if you can solve it. And okay. I'm starting at the very beginning, easy puzzle. I'm not gonna read you the bit before because it tells what the puzzle is. I'll read you, like what would you hear as a player. So, okay. you walk into a room. It's an art gallery. This gallery is decorated with 7 framed pictures of creatures. A few chairs and benches have been placed in front of the art for viewing. A plaque mounted on one of the walls bears the following dedication. In order to gain all knowledge, one must know where to start. Count on your enemies to reveal the source of the secret. This room is dedicated to the defeat of all monsters within. And then looking up at the pictures, you see 7 paintings on the wall, like it says. And the paintings are of a gruesome werewolf under a full moon, a trio of gnolls fighting over a spear, a grinning beholder, singular, 2 trolls sitting under a tree, 5 kobolds around a bonfire, and 2 gelatinous cubes patrolling a dungeon corridor, and 3 dragons in flight. Solve the puzzle.
Wait, fuck. Hold on. Okay.
There's no handout or anything I could have given you either. Yeah.
There's a lot of words having to do with numbers here. So I'm assuming that like the numbers of the numbers of enemies in the pictures have something to do with the resolution, yes?
The plaque says, in order to gain knowledge, one must know where to start. Count on your enemies to reveal the source of the secret. The room is dedicated to the defeat of all monsters within.
Okay, can you repeat the
I should have had you write this shit down.
Yeah,
The paintings?
yeah, repeat the paintings again.
Okay. The paintings are, left or right or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
A gruesome werewolf under the full moon. A trio of gnolls fighting over a spear.
Okay.
A grinning beholder. Two trolls sitting under a tree.
Okay.
5 kobolds around the bonfire.
Okay.
2 gelatinous cubes patrolling a dungeon corridor.
Okay.
And 3 dragons in flight. Solve the puzzle. If you want to make some rolls or whatever, that's those are available to you as well. It's not just figure it out. If you want to use some of your skills, just like if we were playing a game, that's an option.
Can I invite another set of brain cells into this?
Like another person?
Yeah.
You don't even want to use your skills?
Oh. Okay.
It's already broken you.
It's already broken me. So, count on your enemies. Something. Count on your enemies.
Count on your enemies to reveal the source of the secret.
My immediate...
What would you do? Yeah.
My immediate instinct is that it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but that's not correct because there's 2 1s, there's 2 3s, and there's 2 2s, and there's a 5. There's 7 altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. I don't know. I'm stumped. I don't even know where to begin with this.
Which is part of what I'm trying to bring up. Like, unless the DM does a lot of table setting here, you have no idea what is going on. Because even if this is just the room that you walked in, I've given you all the description, which is pretty in-depth of what you're seeing, but you have no idea what to do.
I'm not gonna lie. This is exactly what I feel like when I walk into a real museum with real art on. I'm just like, yep, it's there. Painting.
So let's play it out. So like, Dot's in this room. You are tiefling. You are warlock. You are looking at these paintings. You see this inscription. So like, what skills would you think to use in the situation to glean some insight on this?
Oh please, Dot's not good at math. No wait, she is. Oh boy. May I make an Arcana check? I don't know. An investigation check to see if I notice anything in particular.
Yep.
Any common theme between the...
Absolutely. Go ahead and give me that investigation roll.
It's weird for me to be rolling real dice with you. Oh, that's terrible.
What'd you get?
Oh, it's not that bad. It's an 11 plus 7. It's an 18.
Oh, that's really good. Okay, so Dot looks at these pictures. She sees the inscription. So I'll just read it verbatim. So the character deduces that the number of creatures in a painting is important and uses that number to determine which letter the creature's name they should review. Does that sentence sound right to you?
That sounds insane.
So, I'm
okay.
I'll give it to you in a more, human sounding way. You see that there are different numbers of creatures in these paintings. Their numbers may most likely correspond to letters in the common alphabet. We'll say that's English.
Oh, Ooh, okay.
That hint that they put in the book is insane.
That's crazy. Wait, okay, hold on. The number has to do with the letter?
So, yes, the number of creatures in the painting
Because the first 4 spells out ACAB.
and the number corresponds to a letter of the alphabet.
This is nonsense. This spells out nonsense. It's ACABEBC. What is this? This is nonsense, Tasha. Hey, Tasha?
Oh, okay. Nope. I think yeah, I read it wrong. So you deduce that the number of creatures in the painting is important and uses that number to determine which letter in that creature's name you should review.
Oh.
That's not how they worded it. I
Okay.
refigured it a little bit, but that's what it's getting at with your hint here. Look how much shit I'm going through to have you, like, figure out a puzzle. Like, to have the base, the foundation to actually start to figure out the puzzle.
Wait, this still is not a real word. It's not a word.
What letters do you have?
WOBRIE or U, depending what you consider the second letter in gelatinous cube. If it's the E or the
Oh
U,
man,
gelatinous or cube.
You misspelled some shit, didn't you?
No, I know how to spell werewolf. I know how to spell Noel. Older.
How'd you get a U?
Cube. The second letter in cube.
We're not counting cube.
We're not counting cube. Okay, so that's an E. And then the third letter in dragon's an A. So it's Wobria. WOBRIEA. That's
Where'd you get an I?
This is nothing. Wait. Where did I get an I? Okay, that makes less sense even. WOBRLEA.
You're still somehow missing something. How many letters do you have?
I have 7 letters.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And paintings.
And what are they?
WOBRLEA.
Okay, so again, as the DM, I would at this point, because the player's struggling so damn much, I would say you're in the correct path, because the letters are corresponding to what you've intuited that it's asking you about. So the letters are correct.
What? Okay, so are they just out of order? I guess I would make some sort of intelligence check to see if I can, like, unscramble these letters.
Okay. Yeah, give me the intelligence. Investigation again, sure, because you're just investigating the same thing.
17.
Again, you have very good investigation. So I won't get
7. Luckily, we chose my one high intelligence character.
So if you reconfigure these things, it'll definitely spell 2 words you're pretty familiar with that can come together. Starts with an O, ends with an R. Like how do I... So it starts with an O, ends with an R. What's like a 4-letter word you can make with these letters here? And I'll say, because you rolled so high, you're thinking along the lines of, like, beasts or monsters.
Oh, owlbear.
There you go. So you say the magic word, a trap door opens up, and boom, you're able to go into the next room. God damn, that was
What the fuck? No, that was terrible. That sucked. Yeah, that was really weird. That was odd. There were some choices that were made there. I mean, okay. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not good at puzzles. I do have to be handheld through them. So I was a bad test subject to begin with. But
I mean, your reaction.
I don't even think somebody who's good at puzzles would have gotten that.
I was gonna say, your reaction is based on all the information the book gave you, because some of these have handouts where, like, visuals, but some of them aren't really needed. One of them is a puzzle about, like, you have 4 keys, and they have different numbers of teeth, and the entire handout is just that. You see the keys with the different numbers of teeth. They're exactly the same otherwise.
I'll be honest, if you had not said that, like, the letters correspond, or, like, the numbers correspond to, like, which letter in the name of the monster... I would have never thought to try that. Never thought to try that.
Yeah, because the inscription or whatever wasn't even hinting at that. That it came with the, like, you'd have to redo that entire thing on how you describe this and what inscription came with it to, like, kinda, it says count on your enemies, but, like, that's super vague. And the rest of these.
I guess if you're someone who's used to doing puzzles, this is the kind of thing that, like, I guess you'd eventually land on, but you would have to exhaust so many possibilities before you land on this.
And it depends on, like, you know, how much time your players have, because that was the easy puzzle. Some of the other puzzles are, like, way more esoteric.
Let's not do dice ASMR right now.
I'll come out and say yes. Like, you go ahead and read it when you have a minute. Read the puzzle section, but you're like, my players would never understand this if I just gave it to them as is. Like, they would like never get this. The very first
puzzle, the reckless steps.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Like, that's another one that you you know, if you're in person, it can take a minute to, like, kind of draw that out. But if you're doing that online, like we're doing right now, holy hell, the work you would have to do to set that up, and then the players have to figure out what to do, like, with the entire alphabet on the floor. And some of these hints. Some of these hints are so weird, like, the character sees one instance of a school of magic on the floor. The character interprets the clue in the wall verse. There are 8 schools of magic. Each character who succeeds on the check sees an instance of the word magic in the floor. Like, there's like...
Yeah, and it's backwards.
Yeah.
Backwards.
Like, no. If your character sees it, but the player doesn't see it, that doesn't help you on this... thing on this puzzle where you have to, like, say where your token is.
Yeah, no, I mean, the reckless steps one, it's a crossword puzzle. Okay. Yeah. But I don't like that it goes backwards, and, like, I think that it complicates it too much.
Breaking the rules of crosswords, putting backwards words in there.
Well, no, there are some crosswords, but those are the hard crosswords that put backwards words on there. How dare you make this an easy puzzle?
Yeah.
How dare you?
No. So, yeah, there's a bunch of them like that, of, like, just, like, really vaguely worded things that, again, if the DM doesn't do a lot of table setting, the players are going to be lost for a while. If they're the kind of group that, like, yeah, we just want to spend our time solving puzzles, okay, fine. Like, go ahead and, like, you know, we'll do some rolls and we'll figure it out.
I won't lie to you. I'm still going to... There's 1 or 2 in here that I'll still use, but I'm going to have to do a lot of adjusting to make them actually usable.
Yeah, because if this is a step in the dungeon, this should not be the entire session. This should be, you know, a little, you know,
maybe
10, 15...
45 minutes.
I was going to say, like, 10, 15 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes at the most for some of the more complicated ones. But, yeah, like this painting one... You can set that up so that the players can figure that one out a lot quicker because it's leading to the next area. It's not like, boom, you found the treasure. I mean, it could be if you wanted, but jeez. So, yeah, we're almost an hour and a half at this point. So I'll say, Tasha's, lots of good information, lots of good class stuff that we like, touching on, you know, making races a bit more fluid and how they're set up. Puzzle section, I don't like. That, you know, could have been done way better. I like session 0. I like codifying some of these good rules that DMs have been advocating for years now. Mm-hmm. And yeah, if you're a new player, I definitely get it. It's probably the second or third, like, most important book you should get because this and Xanathar's gives so many more customization options. If you haven't gotten all the other books before, a lot more bang for your buck.
Absolutely.
But yeah. All right, so we hit a lot of ground today.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the books that makes me really grateful for the feature on D&D Beyond that like lets you buy just a single feature or
Yes.
just a single subclass, because this is definitely where I would be using it the most.
Pick and choose. Yeah, I just get the whole damn book.
Thank you all. This has been Oops All Dragons.
Episode number 6.
6. And, yeah, we gotta get these out. Until next time.
If you stuck with us this long, we love you even more.
Jesus. Happy rolling. Good night.
Adios.
Oops All Dragons is a group effort. Our show is edited by Noel Hernandez. Our theme was composed by Brendan Lyons. And our logo art is by Azif On Q. Links to more of their work and their social media will be in the show notes.